If you want to know if an artificial intelligence is actually smart, you usually just give it a standardized test, right?
Right. Yeah, that's always been the standard approach.
But there is a massive problem in the tech world right now. The AI has basically already memorized all the answers.
Exactly. It's read the entire internet.
Yeah, so it already knows the test. So how do you measure the intelligence of a machine that, already holds the answer key?
Well, you don't test its memory. You throw it into the wild and you ask it to invent something entirely new.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are exploring what might be, honestly, the most cutting-edge question in technology right now. Can AI actually automate the job of an AI research scientist?
And we are really moving past the era of viewing artificial intelligence as just, a mere tool.
Right.
The frontier we're standing on right now asks whether these systems can become independent inventors of their own new tools. Like, we're talking about genuine, autonomous scientific discovery.
Which is wild. And to get to the bottom of this, we are looking at a really fascinating 2026 paper from researchers at Metafair, the University of Oxford, and University College London.
Yeah, it's a huge collaboration.
It is. And they introduced something called AIRS Bench, which stands for the AI Research Science Benchmark.
Right.
The mission for you today is to explore how close we really are to a world where AI conducts its own research, how we even begin to measure that ability, and, well, what it all means for the future of machine learning.
It's a lot to cover.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this. Before we can talk about AI doing actual research, we have to understand why our current methods for testing AI capabilities are, frankly, fundamentally broken.
Yeah, the current evaluation landscape is really in a state of crisis. I mean, historically, the rapid advancement in machine learning has been almost entirely driven by benchmarks.
Right, you build a data set, test a model on it, get a score, and publish it.
Exactly. But the fundamental flaw with large language models today is, well, data contamination.
Because these models are trained by scraping the internet, right? And the internet contains basically all of the benchmarks.
Yeah, exactly. They ingest vast amounts of data during their pre-training phase. And that inadvertently includes the baseline code, the questions, and the published solutions for almost every existing test.
Wow.
So when you ask a modern language model a standard benchmark question, you aren't actually testing its ability to reason or discover. You're just testing its data retrieval.
It is totally like a student who managed to steal the answer key to the final exam before the semester even started.
That is exactly what it is.
Like, they walk into the test, fill out the bubbles, and look like an absolute genius on paper.
Right.
But if you take that same student, rip up the standardized tests, and ask them to design a brand new experiment from scratch, they completely freeze up.
Yeah, they don't actually know the underlying principles of physics or chemistry. They just memorize the optimal output.
Wow, yeah.
And that analogy perfectly illustrates the illusion of competence we're dealing with. It creates this really dangerous false sense of security about what these models can actually achieve in the real world.
Because research isn't a multiple choice test.
Exactly. The real job of a researcher is not answering a multiple choice question with a known, clean solution. The scientific method is incredibly noisy. It involves a long horizon process of forming a hypothesis, writing code, running into totally unexpected errors, debugging, and iteratively refining a theory.
Right, takes days, sometimes weeks.
Yes. It requires navigating deep uncertainty. This raises an important question. If the old tests are compromised, how do we possibly test true, uncontaminated reasoning?
And that is exactly where the researchers behind our source material stepped in to build basically a completely new kind of gauntlet. Enter AIRS Bench.
Right.
Since the old tests were basically an open book exam where the AI already had the book, they built the ultimate uncontaminated obstacle course.
Yeah, and to do this, they sourced 20 distinct, highly complex tasks from state-of-the-art machine learning papers published very recently, specifically between 2020 and 2025.
So super recent.
Very recent. And this deliberate curation ensures the tasks represent modern challenges that the broader machine learning community actually cares about right now.
And it also covers 7 incredibly diverse domains. Like, we are talking about molecules and proteins, machine learning, text extraction, time series forecasting, natural language processing, math, and code generation.
That's a huge spread.
Let's pause on that diversity for a second, because testing an AI on math is totally different from testing it on, like, protein structures.
Oh, absolutely. The cognitive flexibility required is immense. I mean, a model might be excellent at generating text for an NLP task, but predicting the 3D structure of a protein molecule.
Right, that's way harder.
Yeah, that requires understanding spatial relationships and biochemical constraints. Forecasting a time series requires understanding temporal dependencies and statistical noise. AIRS bench basically forces the AI to prove it can adapt its reasoning across the entire spectrum of scientific inquiry.
But the most crucial detail here, the thing that really separates the, sterile laboratory from the wild jungle, is that the agents are not provided with any baseline code.
None at all.
Nothing. They are given a blank terminal.
Yeah, they literally just receive a problem description, a data set, and an evaluation metric. That's it.
That is brutal.
From there, they must go through the entire life cycle of a researcher. They have to generate an original idea, design the methodology, write the Python code from scratch,
The model.
train a machine learning model, analyze the experimental results, and then refine their approach based on the performance.
Okay, I need to clarify the mechanics of this because the word agent gets thrown around a lot. Wait, when we say agent, what exactly is doing the work here? Is it just ChatGPT in a browser?
That's a great question, and no, it's not. Understanding the architecture is vital to understanding why this gauntlet is so difficult.
Yeah.
In this research, an agent is defined mathematically and functionally as the combination of two things: a large language model like GPT-4o or CWM, or O3 mini, plus what is called a scaffold.
A scaffold.
Yes,
Yeah.
and both of those operate inside a framework called a harness.
Scaffold and harness. That sounds like we're outfitting these language models with rock climbing equipment to scale a mountain.
That's actually a pretty good way to think about it. The large language model is the reasoning core, is the brain.
Right.
But, a brain in a jar cannot conduct an experiment. The scaffold is the algorithmic layer that gives that brain hands and eyes.
Oh, I see.
It provides operators and search policies, which allows the LLM to search the solution space, use tools, draft code, test it, read the error logs, and try again.
Okay, and the harness.
The harness, and in this paper they use specific frameworks like ARA Dojo and MLGym, is the simulated laboratory environment. It provides compute resources, the internet access, and the actual terminal where the code runs.
Okay, got it. So the harness is the physical laboratory room, the scaffold is the execution of the scientific method, and the LLM is the brain thinking about the problem.
Exactly.
And they don't just have an hour to do this. The harness gives them exactly 24 hours and a single, highly powerful H200 GPU to solve the problem.
24 straight hours of autonomous computation.
That's intense.
It is.
Oh.
They have to write code that prepares the data, trains a model, and outputs a valid submission file, all without a human ever stepping in to fix a typo or point out a logical flaw.
I mean, if you've ever tried to write even a basic Excel macro, you know how frustrating it is to hunt down one missing comma or a broken cell reference.
Oh, yeah.
Now imagine writing thousands of lines of machine learning Python code, hitting an error, reading the log, and rewriting the code all autonomously for 24 hours straight.
It's a monumental task.
So we've equipped the best models in the world with their scaffolds and harnesses and unleashed them on these 20 state-of-the-art problems. How do they actually do?
Well, the results were brutal. The agents struggled massively across the board.
Yeah, looking at the numbers from the paper, the overall valid submission rate was only 55.1%.
Which means almost half the time, these highly advanced systems could not even produce a working, scorable piece of code within that 24-hour limit.
Wow.
Yeah, they either crashed, failed to format the output correctly, or just got stuck in endless debugging loops where they kept making the exact same mistake over and over again.
These are the smartest models on the planet. Why are they failing just to hand in their homework?
It's crazy, right?
And the actual scores are even more surprising. The average normalized score across all runs was a remarkably low 24.1%.
Yeah, and it really reveals the harsh realities of autonomous coding over long horizons. I mean, it's relatively easy for an AI to write a 50-line Python script perfectly in a single prompt,
Sure.
but it's profoundly difficult to write thousands of lines of code over hundreds of iterations. The primary culprit is something called context overflow.
Context overflow, what's that?
Well, as the agent tries an approach, fails, reads the error log, and rewrites the code, its working memory fills up with a massive history of broken code and error messages.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so it literally starts to lose track of its original goal.
It is like trying to hold a really complex math equation in your head while someone stands next to you shouting random numbers.
Yes.
Eventually, the noise pushes the actual equation right out of your working memory, and you just lose the thread completely.
Exactly. And furthermore, small bugs accumulate silently over these long agentic traces. Like A minor formatting error in the data preparation stage might not trigger an immediate error, right?
Right.
But it cascades into a catastrophic failure during model training 5 hours later. Adhering strictly to rigorous machine learning experimental methodology without any human intervention is just a monumental task.
Clearly.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, this high failure rate is actually a very good thing for science.
A 45% failure rate doesn't exactly sound like a victory.
Well, it is a victory for measurement. For years, the machine learning community has worried that AI was maxing out our tests, leading to all these claims that artificial general intelligence was, like, right around the corner.
Oh, I see.
This proves that we have finally built a benchmark that accurately measures current limitations. We stripped away the memorized answers, and we found the actual current boundary of AI capability.
That makes a lot of sense. But, that boundary isn't a solid wall, because some models did survive this obstacle course.
They did.
And the data shows that the secret to their survival doesn't necessarily lie in just using a bigger, smarter base model. It lies entirely in how the agent is allowed to think.
Right. The scaffolding proved to be the defining factor. The researchers tested different types of scaffolds to see what architecture produced the best research.
Okay.
The most basic is one shot, where the agent essentially gets one single try to draft the entire solution based on the prompt.
Which sounds impossible.
It pretty much is. Then there is React, which allows for sequential linear iteration. The agent tries a piece of code, observes the result, and tries the next piece.
But the real breakthrough came from tree-based search methods, right? Specifically a scaffold called Greedy running in the AIRS dojo harness.
Yes.
How does a tree-based search differ from just trying again and again in a straight line with the React method?
Well, in a linear approach like React, you are bound to your early decisions.
So in a linear approach, it's like building a house out of Lego. If you realize on layer 50 that your foundation is off by one peg, you can't just keep adding bricks to fix it. You have to tear the whole thing down.
Exactly. The greedy tree search prevents that architectural lock-in. Instead of one single path, the agent maintains a population of potential solutions.
Population of solutions.
Right. It explores different branches of code simultaneously. If one branch hits a dead end or an unfixable error, it doesn't have to tear down the whole house.
It just backs up.
Yeah. It can simply back up to a previous node, like a previous state of the code that was working well, and try a completely different approach from there. It actively manages a diverse set of hypotheses.
Let's think about it like cooking. A one-shot prompt is like dragging someone into a kitchen, pointing at a pile of raw ingredients, and demanding they invent a complex new recipe on the spot perfectly on the first try.
Which is almost guaranteed to result in an inedible meal.
Exactly. But the greedy tree search scaffold is like giving them a fully stocked kitchen, a whiteboard, and 24 hours.
Right.
They can mix a sauce, taste it, realize it needs salt, split the sauce into 3 different bowls, try lemon in one, vinegar in another, and wine in the third.
A much better way to cook.
They test, they taste, they combine, they branch out until they find the absolute best variation.
And the data from the paper proves that giving the AI that fully stocked kitchen with the ability to branch out is what really makes the difference.
Wow.
Tree search methods massively outperformed one-shot methods. In fact, model size mattered less than the scaffold itself.
Wait, really?
Yeah. A smaller language model equipped with a greedy scaffold could rival or even beat a much larger model that was restricted to one-shot reasoning.
So what does this all mean? It means the future of AI capabilities isn't just about training billion-parameter models on more internet data. It is about test-time compute.
Exactly.
It's about giving the model the computational structure, the time, and the framework to think long and hard about a problem, exploring multiple branches before delivering an answer.
It completely shifts the paradigm of artificial intelligence from instant recall to sustained deliberation.
Yeah.
We're basically teaching them how to pace themselves through a complex problem.
Okay, so we've established that scaffolding works and test-time compute is powerful. But this brings us to the climax of this entire experiment.
The big question.
Right. Does giving an AI 24 hours of test-time compute work well enough for it to actually invent a methodology that is better than what human scientists have published in top-tier academic journals?
Astonishingly, yes. And surpassing a human state-of-the-art result is an incredibly high bar.
I mean, these are published benchmarks achieved by teams of expert human researchers, peer-reviewed and rigorously tested.
Right.
The sources show that in 4 out of the 20 tasks, agents actually exceeded the human state-of-the-art, or SOTA.
Which is huge.
There is one specific example from the paper that perfectly illustrates the AI doing original, highly complex engineering. It's a textual classification task using a dataset called SECK, S-I-C-K.
Which stands for Sentences Involving Compositional Knowledge. It is a classic natural language inference problem.
Okay.
You give the model a pair of sentences, a premise, and a hypothesis, and it has to figure out if the hypothesis is logically true, false, or neutral, based solely on the premise.
Got it. And the evaluation metric they use to grade the performance is simply accuracy.
Exactly.
Now, the human state-of-the-art for this specific dataset was published in 2023, and the human researchers took a very straightforward, logical route.
Right.
They took a single pre-trained transformer model called Roberta. They fine-tuned it on the training data, and they achieved an accuracy of 90.5%. Clean, simple, effective.
A very standard, well-respected methodology for natural language processing tasks of that nature.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The AI agent, specifically the greedy GPTOS 120B agent, looked at the SEK dataset, totally ignored the simple route the humans took, and autonomously built a complex two-level stacked ensemble.
Yeah, it utilized a technique involving five-fold stratified cross-validation to generate out-of-fold predictions.
Okay.
It extracted the logits from two separate base models and then trained a logistic regression meta-learner to combine them.
Okay, hold on. We need to pause and translate that. For those of us who haven't built a neural network today, let's break down what this AI actually engineered.
Fair enough.
So instead of just trying to make that one Roberta model smarter like the humans did, the AI decided to basically build a digital boardroom. It brought in two completely different models, Roberta and Deberta. Why use two different models?
Because different models have different architectural strength.
Mm.
By using two, the agent is hoping they will make different types of mistakes, allowing their combined knowledge to cover each other's blind spots.
Ah, okay, so it puts these two models in the boardroom. You mentioned five-fold cross-validation. That basically means the AI was testing these two models rigorously against each other to make sure they weren't just memorizing the data and cheating, right?
Yes. Cross-validation splits the data into 5 chunks. It trains the model on 4 chunks and tests it on the 5th, rotating through until every single piece of data has been used for testing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this ensures the out-of-fold predictions are a true measure of the model's predictive power on unseen data, not just its ability to regurgitate what it already saw.
Okay, so it has these two unbiased experts. And then you mentioned logits. Logits are basically just the raw, unpolished confidence scores the model spits out before turning them into a final yes or no answer.
Correct. Instead of just taking the final true or false from the two models, the agent extracted those granular raw confidence scores.
And then it built a third program, the meta-learner. It basically hired a manager whose only job is to look at the confidence scores of the two experts, figure out which expert is usually right about which type of sentence, and make the final call.
And by orchestrating this entire symphony of models, it hit 93.1% accuracy, significantly beating the human state-of-the-art of 90.5%.
That is incredible.
What's fascinating here is that the agent didn't just stumble onto a lucky hyperparameter setting or blindly guess a better number. It engineered a highly sophisticated, robust architectural solution from the ground up.
Writing all the flawless Python code to string this complex pipeline together.
Exactly. The human researchers simply hadn't applied this specific ensemble architecture to this data set.
It's incredibly clever. I mean, it truly is original machine learning engineering. But you know, it also makes me wonder, if an AI agent can engineer a stacked ensemble that complex, why does it still crash over a basic formatting error or a CSV file in other tasks?
Yeah.
We are clearly not looking at an omnipotent AI god of science just yet.
Not at all. We have to ground this brilliance in the overall reality of the landscape. For every brilliant, stacked ensemble that pushes the boundaries of a specific dataset, there were dozens of runs where the agent crashed and burned because context overflow wiped its memory of how to save a file.
Right.
The brilliance is currently fragile.
To put this fragile brilliance into a final quantifiable perspective, the researchers looked at the ELO ratings.
Like in chess.
Yeah, the ELO system is what they use to rank chess players based on their wins and losses. The researchers treated the human state-of-the-art as a player and all the different AI agent configurations as players, having them compete against each other across these 20 tasks.
And the resulting hierarchy is very telling about where we currently stand in the grand scheme of artificial intelligence.
Let's hear it.
The human state-of-the-art sits at a massive 1674 ELO rating.
Okay.
The absolute best AI agent on the board, the greedy O3 Mini, is trailing far, far behind at 1146.
Wow. So if you are a human AI research scientist listening to this, you are not out of a job just yet.
Definitely not.
The benchmark is unsmoothed, it is unsaturated, and it is waiting to be conquered. The human is still the undisputed grandmaster of the laboratory.
The human retains the crown for now. The gap between an ELO of 1146 and 1674 is substantial, but we must recognize what that gap actually consists of.
What do you mean?
It is largely a gap of computational efficiency, error recovery mechanisms, and scaffolding. And the thing is, all of these are fields that the tech industry is improving exponentially right now.
Which brings us back to where we started. For years, we evaluated these systems in a pristine laboratory with an answer key, and we tricked ourselves into thinking they were perfect.
Yeah, we did.
Now, we threw these agents into the wild jungle of AIRS bench, stripped away their memorized answers, and forced them to survive the brutal, long-horizon reality of the scientific method.
And most of them failed.
Most of them failed, but a few of them not only survived, they thrived. They built architectural ensembles we hadn't thought to build. And that leaves you with a final thought to mull over.
Yeah, we are currently using human benchmarks, tasks designed by human minds, measured against human state-of-the-art results to grade these AI agents. We are the teachers grading the students.
But if an AI agent is already capable of autonomously discovering a better architectural ensemble than a team of expert human researchers, what happens in a few years? What happens when we unleash an AI research agent on the task of designing the architecture for its own successor?
That's the real question.
When the AI is the one setting the benchmark and inventing the architecture, will human scientists even be able to understand the resulting research paper? It makes you wonder who exactly is going to be grading who.